Once again, I am burning the candle at both ends. But I refuse to have this channel get hijacked by the Fine Brothers fiasco that I finished talking about earlier, such that the response to it is the only thing I upload today. So let's finish on a techie note and talk about some stuff related to computers that's been racking my brain lately. Like all this talk about building a console killer PC. If you're going to call something a console killer, don't attach PC to the end of it, for one thing. Now this is a fractal design node case. This is the kind of case that people want to build their so-called console killers in. If you look at the dimensions of a lot of these small form factor cases, because of the size of the components and having to space things out, you're probably looking at something, I'm guessing, the size of a cable box, rather than something the size of a PlayStation. I don't know. It doesn't help that a lot of these videos are folks from overseas that are putting everything in metric, so it's those of us Americans that still want to mess with inches and stuff like that. Or maybe compare it to the size of a console or something. But that's my question for all these people building supposed console killers. If you're going to build something that's essentially a console killer, and I've tossed around the idea, I even jokingly joked about calling it the J Station. But as much as it would be a fun project, I have zero use for a console killer. Because every single selling point of console killer machines like this has been made moot by the way regular computers have evolved to fit in better in the living room, and things along those lines. Think about it. So this is a small form factor case. You're going to be cramped. You're going to have to find a way to route your cables. You're going to have to worry about heat, hope that the dust filters don't clog. And one of the ongoing problems with this fractal case is that you have to take off the top and bottom piece, aka disassemble the whole case, to get at some of these dust filters. It's terrible. But for the sake of a console killer that you plug a controller into and have a computer the size of a cable box or what have you, it's just, or DVR, I should probably say DVR or something like that. I don't know who even calls them cable boxes anymore. How about the ones that don't DVR that are smaller? I think that would be more of a target size. That would be closer to a console. What do you want me to say? A computer the size of a VCR? Boy, will that be a walk down memory lane for some people out there. Although my dad still uses them because they're cheap. Nobody wants to use them anymore. He buys packs of VHS tapes for dirt cheap because nobody wants them, so he can get dirt cheap prices for them. Or he buys old movies from the flea market and just records over them. But yeah, what's the point of a console killer PC? You're going to make it look like a console. You know, a console killer, okay. You make a system that edges out the PS4. Why wouldn't you just want to make something... I mean, PC gaming's already expensive to begin with. Why wouldn't you just want to make something that has a little more oomph and will last a little bit longer instead of just barely getting ahead of the PS4 or Xbox One? And what's with the taboo about, I don't want a big desktop in my living room? Have those of you who entertain such silliness, have you ever thought about what has changed with desktops and what has changed with so-called living room devices? How about all those vertical stands out there? They put all your electronics at risk because someone will always end up as Captain Klutz and knock them over. But there's vertical stands for all kinds of stuff. PlayStations, I think, even can go vertical. I see YouTube videos all the time, people running PS4s on their sides, or Xbox Ones standing up, or the 360 standing up, which is a stupid idea, by the way, as if people have never heard of center of gravity. However, so many people want to run these devices standing up. What's the problem with the computer tower? I mean, let's look at the one I have. There's Tuxedo. Just get out of the way so we can actually film the thing. It fits quite nicely between... it fits quite nice. Of course, I have a desk here, but if I had an entertainment center, I could squeeze this sucker in or put it off to the side or get wireless or something like that. This doesn't really need to be a combination desk and living room setup. It's just made that way because of the small size of this house. But I think it's quite practical for multi-use and utilizing the space with what I do here. However, this is an outdated case, so it looks terrible. This is an outdated case, but something newer like a fractal design Define R5, why, a little black box. why would it be a problem if it was standing up instead of... I mean, there's so many people using vertical stands. Why would it be a problem if it's a rectangle thing standing up? That's my question. You got people running PlayStations sideways, Xboxes sideways, even the Wii and the Wii U. Although, quite frankly, with the size of these consoles, I've been saying that the Wii and the Wii U look like external drives. You want to talk about stuff that doesn't fit in the living room? Where do people think up this stuff? So you're going to go to all the trouble to build a console killer in something that looks like this. Gimp your cooling, have to worry about noise, and things along those lines. And for what? Because it might look too ugly? And actually, this thing comes with a vertical stand. So, okay, you use this as a vertical stand. The Fractal Design logo starts to look like this in your living room. And you've done what exactly? You've wound up with a tower of electronics in your living room. What would be so wrong about a tower of electronics in your living room? Seriously. Now, of course, I mean, if you have a computer that looks like an office machine from 1993, that's a problem. Obviously, that won't look like it belongs in a living room, but newer cases than this, and this is an old, obsolete case by many standards, newer cases than this will look better in a living room environment than this. So, honestly, what's with the taboo? What's with the taboo about all of this, and why do we have to talk about console killers when you can just put whatever punch you can afford into one of these systems instead of, oh yeah, I'm just going to barely edge out the PlayStation 4. So, it's one of those bucket list things if you want to build a console killer computer, but the way console killers are getting publicized, it's stupid, and I think it's a waste of money. Yeah, it's a stupid waste of money indeed, because you're barely getting ahead of the consoles when you could actually go way ahead of the consoles and end up with a system that you're only upgrading, and maybe even wind up in a situation like mine where you have a system that you're going nuts with because you haven't gotten rid of it. This thing is still running the same Phenom 6-core 1090Ti that was a hot processor in April of 2010. Heading towards 6 years ago. Because this thing had some oomph back when it came out. I didn't just barely edge out the consoles, and it's still good to this day. I'm having trouble justifying building Monolith, unless this thing dies, in which case I could just build a Kaviri rig on the spot and get back up in no time. Or AMD FX 8350. Maybe build an 8350 Sabertooth system, like what was popular a couple of years ago, to replace this thing. You know? Still has the mathematical capability of some Core i5s. And mathematical capability is kind of a secondary feature of a lot of games. Something to think about. Console killers, are they really worth it? Or are they just overhyped right now because computers are assuming computers are actually becoming more and more decent looking in the living room now that they're not all ugly ass beige boxes. So, something to think about. MultimediaJay out.